What's up, everybody? Welcome back for another episode of Life and Law with Mike and Bill. I'm Bill.
I'm Mike.
And we are very excited today. Have a great show.
Very excited.
Want to start by introducing our guest because she is here already. We have Grungo Colarulo attorney Erica Domingo, who is Domingo, who is a trial attorney who specializes. Can't say specialize.
Don't say specialize.
Can't say specialize in the legal world. But concentrates her practice on employment as well as medical malpractice and personal injury. Mm-hmm. What's up, Erica?
Hi, Bill.
Hello, Michael. What's up, ED?
Thank you for joining the show. We're excited to have Erica today because later on in the show, we are going to talk about legalization of marijuana in the state of New Jersey.
Yep. And
what that means for employees who may or may not lose their job or have lost their job because they've failed a drug test. So it's a very interesting topic. It's a very hot topic in New Jersey, so we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk a little bit about the very sad news that came out of the Philadelphia Flyers. The two trainers, both diagnosed with a very rare form of cancer. They have filed lawsuits against Comcast, the Flyer Skate Zone. So we're going to talk to Erica about that as well as Mike, because Mike's a workers' comp lawyer, and this involves some workers' comp issues since they're employed and they're suing potentially their employer. We'll talk about it.
Let's not go there.
We will talk about it. But before we do, this is the Monday after Easter weekend.
Easter. Is this Easter Monday?
I believe it is.
No.
Only for the Greek Orthodox and Russian Orthodox communities, I believe.
Listen.
No, you're wrong, Mike. You're wrong. Your Easter Sunday was not this past Sunday. It was the Sunday a week ago.
Regardless of when it was, I want to make it clear. There is no such day as Easter Monday. Okay?
Okay.
Says who? Says who?
Says me. It doesn't exist.
You know.
Somebody made this up.
Mike speaks.
The Monday after Easter is Easter Monday.
Relax.
Why don't we call the Friday after Thanksgiving Friday?
We do.
Mike's all worked
No,
up.
we don't.
He almost threw his microphone.
No.
You're going to give yourself a heart attack, Mike.
I hate this. I hate it.
All right. Mike hates Easter
what
Monday.
about
Monday.
How do you really feel? Thursday.
No. It's the same thing.
No, well, that's because Christmas
You know what else I hate? When the birthday weekend. Birthday, it's on a day. It's not the whole weekend.
So
and if it happens on a Thursday, then we've got the birthday week.
Yo, I'm so happy you brought that up because my birthday is in June and it's on a Thursday. So we are going to celebrate a 4-day weekend
Not
together,
with me,
Mike.
you're not.
I'm going to celebrate your whole birthday month just to piss Mike off even more.
The whole month of June, everybody.
The whole month of June.
It's too much. It's too much.
All right, you're coming
I'm
out
sorry.
of the gate fine.
Erica
didn't even get a chance to get comfortable here.
We're getting off topic here. What's the topic?
June is the month of Bill.
Yeah, June is the month of me.
The topic is celebrate everything, Michael.
So that's Erica's mentality. Erica, because some of our listeners don't know you, they don't follow you.
I don't know why.
What do you mean by celebrate everything? I know what you mean, but explain to them.
Well, Bill, life is short.
Yes.
And there's a lot of bad things that happen.
It's profound.
Thank you. But no, and I have young kids, school-aged kids, and my kids are interested in learning about the world, but we actually got into, during COVID, celebrating everything. It started out with every holiday. Muslim holidays, Diwali, Passover, everything. We learned about the holidays and the traditions and where they came from. So we started literally celebrating everything. And now we do it, if my kid fails a test, we celebrate that and figure out how we can be better moving forward.
There we go. There we are. We're celebrating failure.
Mike is angry today.
He's mad.
What are we doing?
Well, Mike, happy Easter Monday to you.
It's not.
Do you know why Mike is angry? I figured it out. If you listened to last week's podcast, we spent a big portion of it talking about Mike's favorite Easter food, which is lamb. And Mike loves to say this is quote unquote, I'm fascinated by lamb. Right?
I'm fascinated.
And I just asked him, because I've been away for a week, which we'll talk about, and I just asked him, did you get lamb on Easter?
No, I did not.
And I think that's why he's so angry.
It doesn't make me angry because it was by my choice.
What'd you get?
We were out to dinner. We went out for Easter dinner, and lamb was on the menu, but I wasn't feeling it.
Ooh, what'd you get?
I got some pasta.
Interesting.
You know what's a great time to eat lamb, though? Easter Monday.
Easter Monday. Nothing like the present, Mike. I think Estia's opened up the street. They do a nice lamb. They do a nice lamb chop.
Estia does a nice lamb chop. They really do.
They really do. But let's get into a little bit today. We're going to move on from the celebrate everything, although I think that's a great mentality. And we're going to talk about the sad news that came out of the Flyers camp with the two longtime trainers, both testing positive. Jim McCrossin, as well as Sal Raffa, filed lawsuits because they were diagnosed with rare medical conditions that they allege came from exposure to chemicals used in the Zambonis at the Flyers skate zone in Voorhees. In fact, I think we've all been there.
At the practice facility. Not at the Wells Fargo Center.
Yeah, for those who are listeners who are not from New Jersey, South Jersey, Philadelphia are super close to each other. The Flyers training facilities are in Voorhees, New Jersey, which is right over the bridge. Sixers do the same thing. Their training facilities are in Camden. Yep. But we've all been to the Flyers skate zone. It's been there for a long, long time. And the lawsuit alleges that the cancer that they developed was caused by gasoline and or fuel containing and or producing carcinogens from the Zambonis. And they allege that the Zambonis would idle in the Zamboni room, which lacked appropriate ventilation and was in such close proximity to the training room that McCrossin and Raffa were exposed to these carcinogens, and then they developed these rare cancers, these rare medical conditions, and they were both diagnosed in the spring and summer of 2021, only a couple of months apart. So it's interesting. So they filed a lawsuit against, and I'm going to name the defendants. They filed a lawsuit against Flyers ownership, Comcast Holding Corporation, Comcast Spectacor Holding Corporation, Comcast Spectacor, and Comcast Spectacor Ventures, and they also include the rinks, the Flyers skate zone, and some other names that the skate zone uses. It's interesting because they do not file against the Philadelphia Flyers directly. Now, we do not have all of the details yet. There's just a complaint filed. We don't represent them. We're going to continue to follow this. But what's interesting is in the state of Pennsylvania, Mike and Erica, if I'm wrong, correct me.
Don't worry, we will.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
It's very difficult to bring a lawsuit directly against your employer outside of a workers' compensation claim.
Well, there's a couple of things wrong with what you just said.
Please correct me.
Okay. It's not very difficult to bring the suit. Bringing the suit is easy. Whether or not you can win is the more important question.
Very true, Michael.
And outside of a lawsuit, other than a workers' compensation claim, is not a lawsuit. But the basic concept of what you're saying is correct. You cannot sue your employer for an injury that occurs while in the course and scope of your employment. Your employer is immune under both New Jersey and Pennsylvania law. Now, this practice facility is in New Jersey. Where is this suit being brought? Do you know? I know it was filed by Klein and Spector, and I'm sure they're obviously a top-notch firm in Philadelphia. They certainly know what they're doing, but where are we talking about? What venue?
That's a really good question.
Because it could be either, right? The injury occurred in New Jersey, arguably, but their employer or their work was headquartered in Pennsylvania, and most of those defendants are in Pennsylvania.
They filed in the Court of Common Pleas of Philadelphia.
Okay.
Yep.
So they did bring it in the Philadelphia County.
So I'm going to go out on a limb and assume, which is always dangerous, that the actual employer of Jim McCrossin and Sal Raffa is the Flyers.
Right.
So, and I noted that you, in that long list of defendants that you mentioned, did not include the Flyers, which makes sense because you cannot sue your employer. So they named everyone else that may have some responsibility or negligence involved in creating this dangerous condition at the practice rink. So that makes sense.
Now, Mike made an interesting point, Eric, as we were talking about this the other day. He said, I find it very interesting, though, that both Jim McCrossin and Sal Raffa continue to work as the trainers for the Philadelphia Flyers. They're still working at the Flyers skate zone. They're still working for the team while they have this lawsuit pending, which is interesting. You know, as far as an employment attorney, from that perspective, simply by bringing a lawsuit, would the Flyers or their ownership be able to retaliate and say, hey, we're going to let you guys go because you filed this lawsuit?
So that is a pretty rhetorical question.
Yeah.
Thanks for the softball. Get me warmed up today.
Getting you excited because we got big things to talk about today.
Big things. But no, an employer cannot retaliate against an employee for bringing a legal claim. You know, Pennsylvania, not as the laws are not as comprehensive as to ways in which the employer cannot retaliate against you. But something like this, where you're claiming you became injured, possibly disabled as a result of conditions in your workplace, certainly there would be big red flags going up if these guys get fired in the relative near future. And the other thing, what's interesting to me when you were talking about they're still working there, I wonder if they've requested any kind of workplace accommodations to not have to be in that same proximity to the Zamboni. So,
yeah, and I wonder, they allege in their complaint that was filed that there are other types of Zambonis that don't require the use of these types of gasolines that cause these carcinogens. So, I mean, I know me personally, I have a 3-year-old son. I played ice hockey growing up. I'm looking forward to getting him to play ice hockey, and we're involved at the Flyers skate zone. Are they going to replace these damn Zambonis? Because not only do you have these 2 trainers there are tons of kids, thousands of kids there daily.
Yep.
You got birthday parties there. So, I'm really curious, like you said, not only did they provide maybe workplace accommodations, are they going to get rid of these damn Zambonis?
Well, but remember, these are people who were in close proximity to the fuel running in a very closed quarter environment from what we're hearing. And when you go with your kids, I took my kids to the skate zone. We live in Voorhees, so it's actually free for us on Sundays to go. Nice little perk. But, when the Zamboni's going, 1, you're not close to it because you're not on the ice. And 2, you're in a bigger area. It's an open rink area.
And there was an issue with the ventilation, where they park the Zamboni, what they call the Zamboni room, is directly adjacent to the training room where McCrawson and Rafa spend a lot of their time.
Right.
So that close proximity is an issue too. I mean, that sounds like a ventilation issue, which can be kind of easily resolved.
Well, to be fair, these are only allegations because the Comcast and the defendants have released a statement that stated, the safety of our employees and guests at the Flyers Training Center and all of our facilities is always a top priority for us. We have looked into the allegations made by Jim McCrawson and Sal Rafa over the course of several months, and based on that, believe that their claims have no merit. Beyond that, we cannot comment further, given that this matter is in litigation. So we will see how this plays out over the next few months. Just a quick note, also included as plaintiffs in the complaint were not only Jim McCrawson and Sal Rafa, but also their wives, which if you've listened to our podcasts in the past, we've talked about loss of consortium claims. A spouse usually has a claim when their spouse is injured in some way because they're also affected. We all know what that would be like to have a spouse who, God forbid, has a horrible injury. How's that going to affect you as well? It's going to have a major impact, especially if you have children. So they're in that complaint as well. So we'll see how that plays out. But I want to switch gears. We got a lot to talk about with regard to Mary Jane, little marijuana, right? So the state of New Jersey legalizes recreational marijuana, becoming how many states now? We got California, Colorado.
There's a handful now.
There's a handful.
Yeah. There's quite a bit, yeah.
On 4/21.
On 4/21. And I saw the lines, man, were crazy at these dispensaries. But that's not what we want to talk about, whether you agree with the legalization of marijuana or not. I mean, you know what? I'm going to take a position. I agree with it. I agree with it. I think here's why I agree with it, and then we can move on. I'll get your guys' opinions. The reason I agree with it is I think it's extremely, extremely hypocritical to allow people to buy alcohol, to drink in bars. I think there's more violent crime. There's more date rape. There's more all of these issues that come from alcohol, but that is legal. Why? Because it can be taxed and all that other good stuff. But marijuana has been stigmatized for very, very long. So I'm happy that they've legalized it. I'd like to see more regulation on both marijuana and alcohol, but that's just me. Michael, you have an opinion?
Yeah, I'm still a little on the fence with it. I don't mind it, the legalization, but I'm a little concerned about, because I read an article the other day about when they loosened up the regulations on things like oxycodone and OxyContin, they actually put in regulations to regulate that, and how we're now in the middle of an opioid epidemic. I don't really understand the connection, because if it's got to be prescribed and it's therefore harder to get, how do you blame that for the crisis? And yet this article I read was saying that the same thing may happen with marijuana. If it's legal and therefore more easily accessible, is it going to create a similar type of addiction crisis like the opioids did?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I would say, and this is one of the problems I think with the general public's understanding of marijuana, we have a lot to learn, is I think it's a mistake to lump marijuana and opioids in the same sentence
Right.
because there's not even close to being comparable with regard to addiction, overdose, all the problems that it can cause. But that's what's happened for so long.
Right.
That's why I'm happy
Yep.
they're legalizing it, because I think we need to make sure there's a distinction between marijuana and all these heavy, hardcore narcotics.
Mm-hmm.
But Erica, now you have a little bit maybe more of an interesting perspective because you're the spouse of someone in law enforcement
I
who's
am.
dealt
I
with
am.
this in the past. I mean, what are your thoughts?
So I don't have a problem with it being legalized for recreational use. I think the difficulty looking at it from a law enforcement perspective is, we have a breathalyzer test. You can easily identify someone's level of intoxication from alcohol, but you don't have the same thing for marijuana. And that's potentially a concern for what we're going to talk about, whether someone comes to work high. And, can you perform your job duties, but also should you be operating a motor vehicle? We don't have those kind of metrics like we do for alcohol. And listen, I don't know if alcohol was legal before or after a breathalyzer was invented and we could tell, but there are ways that law enforcement can detect the presence of marijuana, in terms of visibly.
Maybe we should have Officer Domingo on as a guest.
Maybe we should. I think the bag of potato chips or Doritos on their lap would
Yep.
usually give it away.
That's
Gummy
a
bears.
dead giveaway.
But
Dead giveaway.
let's switch gears because Erica is an employment attorney, and there's going to be a lot of questions that come up in
Yep.
the next few months and several years about what are employees' rights in the state of New Jersey, because there are some employers who still drug test
Yep.
and will either fire their employees, not hire people. I mean, what can we expect from an employment law perspective? Can employers still continue to do that if marijuana is legal?
So like everything related to the law, Bill, it depends.
That's usually the answer.
It's always fact sensitive. I look at the fact that there's going to be employers in New Jersey who are working in federally regulated industries. Think about truck drivers or international or even interstate shipping companies. They're federally regulated, so they may have to still adhere and have their employees adhere to federal mandates related to marijuana. And they may be permitted to say, hey, you can't, take your edible before you come to work and come to work with that in your system because you're operating a truck over state lines.
Well, it's the same thing. You can't drink a bottle of vodka before you come to work, isn't
You
it?
can't?
Well, here,
You're not supposed
Well,
to.
you can't.
Hey,
I don't like vodka. I'm a bourbon guy.
but I guess the question then also becomes, though, just like Erica was just talking about the breathalyzers in the vehicles, you're talking about smoking a joint or eating a gummy before you come to work. But when they're drug testing people, that shows whether or not you've smoked weed in the last 30 to 60 days. So why should it matter if on my Saturday night I smoke weed, but yet on Monday I come to work and I'm fine? What's the difference? I could got blackout drunk, but I'm okay coming to work on Monday, but I can't smoke a joint on a Saturday night?
So that
Well, how long does it stay in your system?
Usually you test positive, I think, for 30 to 60
At
days.
least
And what
30
does
days.
testing positive mean?
It means that you have it in your system. They can't detect exactly when you did it.
Okay. Can they detect whether or not you are still under the influence of that drug?
I don't believe. I think that's
so.
the issue.
I don't
That's a
think so.
problem.
So, and that's where I think the drug testing at work will evolve. And I think this is going to be an industry that's going to kind of ramp up quickly to develop. Somebody's going to come out with it. I mean, maybe we should work on this in our spare time, like creating the breathalyzer for marijuana.
Yeah.
You got
Write that down,
Sid?
Sid.
But I think that's going to be something that changes is drug testing in the workplace for marijuana. We've seen it evolve over the past couple years since medical marijuana became legalized in the workplaces in New Jersey. And I've represented individuals who tested positive, but they had a medical marijuana card and the employer, maybe had terminated them and was required to bring them back to work. So long as they confirmed they were doing it on their own time, that they were not coming to work with signs of any kind of visible, intoxication or impairment or anything like that. I think that kind of drug test is going to change, and I believe they're even changing arrest-related questions on job applications, if it's anything related to marijuana, it's going to be, it doesn't, now you're not going to get arrested for it, but if you were arrested for it in the past, they can't hold that against you.
Now let me ask you, Erica. So as an employment attorney, you have claims when a person is discriminated against based off of their protected class, whether it's their gender, their race, their sexual orientation, or their disability.
Correct.
So when we're talking about medical marijuana, we can argue, hey, that they take that because of their disability and you didn't accommodate them. But
Correct.
my question is, if an employer said straight up before they even hired anyone, we do not hire weed smokers. If you smoke weed, you can't work here. Are they allowed to do that? Now, I know you can't say that about smokers, people who smoke tobacco. There's a law that says you can't discriminate against smokers, which I kind of found surprising because it's not really a protected class, but they protected it with a law.
Right.
Can people say that? Hey, we're not going to hire you if you smoke weed. And would there be any recourse if they did it universally? Didn't do it if you were, a man or a woman. Didn't do it if you were, black, white, whatever it was.
Disabled or not disabled.
Not disabled. It was, we don't hire you at all.
Yeah. Arguably, they could do that. I mean, I don't know how they would do that unless they said, and we're doing pre-employment screening. I mean, you'd have to have somebody showing up with some way for the employer to know, or we're testing people every month for drugs. And, is that an employer you really want to work for anyway?
I was kind of setting you up with that question.
Because
then my next question is, if you could do that, then what is stopping you in the state of New Jersey, which we know is an at-will employee state, so you can pretty much get rid of anyone you want to as long as it doesn't violate their protected class or disability or is in retaliation for something.
Right.
Why would you have any claim against your employer if they said, we tested you for drugs, you failed it, and we don't want people who smoke weed here? As long as they didn't do it because you were a man or a woman or your race or your sexual orientation. What would be the recourse against them?
Potentially nothing, right? Unless maybe they had a disability and it was medical and it was prescribed. But typically in those situations, you would give your employer advance notice. Not everybody does because they don't want to air their dirty laundry when they get a new job. And I'm not saying dirty laundry as though smoking medical marijuana is a negative, but typically you would put it out there like you would if you started a new job. And someone like me who has prior neck injury and I need an ergonomic workstation, when I start a new job, I tell my boss and I say, here's what I need, and can you get this for me as an accommodation for my disability? It may be the same thing.
Where I'm going with it kind of is, people who drink alcohol recreationally are not told they can't work at certain places. And I guess, will marijuana get to that level eventually where it's not even a factor in people's decision makings or employers' decision makings? Because really, how does it affect you? If someone smoked weed 3 weeks ago on their day off, how did it affect you?
Yeah.
And I've been reading some things. I think police officers who have never been allowed to smoke marijuana before, maybe it's kind of a...
So I believe it was the Chiefs Association in New Jersey said they were going to allow officers to smoke marijuana off duty, and then the governor came in and said, hold on, let's pump the brakes on this. They're not sure if it's going to happen. So that didn't happen on the 21st like everything else, but it could still be in play. I don't have a crystal ball, but I'm with you. I think that this will eventually be destigmatized in such a way that your employers are not going to care one way or another.
And the other hopeful thing here is that if you guys have ever been to Europe, Europe doesn't really have a drinking age. And it doesn't seem that anyone there looks at alcohol the same way we do here in this country. Like when I was younger growing up, I couldn't wait to go drink, right? You couldn't wait to party. It was almost like this, way to rebel type of thing. We're in Italy and Europe,
you're a rebellious kind
I'm
of
a
kid.
rebel. But you know what I mean?
You were a problem.
Hopefully when it does get destigmatized, maybe it almost has the reverse effect too, where people aren't sneaking around to do it and thinking, they're rebelling.
Are there any ramifications that it's federally legal yet?
So April 1st, the House passed a law to try to make it, or passed a bill to try to make it legal federally. Yeah, but it's still illegal federally, which is interesting because the states say it's legal, New Jersey is legal, but then federally it's not. So what does that mean? Is federally you still
don't smoke in front of the feds.
Correct me if I'm wrong here. I don't believe
can't take it on a plane.
Is medical approved federally yet.
I don't know that answer.
I don't know if it is. I think it's still an illegal substance throughout the federal laws. But anyway, that's interesting. So we'll see how that plays out over the course of the next few months. But like Erica said to start this conversation, like anything pertaining to the law, it depends. So if you feel that you were somehow discriminated against because of your race, your gender, your religion, your sexual orientation, or your disability, meaning you had to smoke marijuana because it was something that was going on with your medical condition, contact an attorney. We do employment here. Erica is a damn good employment attorney.
Thank you.
I'm a little biased, but I've seen it firsthand. We can help you. We can answer questions, and we can find out, because a lot of times maybe there's nothing that they did wrong, but it helps you put your head on the pillow at night knowing I wasn't discriminated against.
Yeah.
They did everything right by me. So call an attorney. A lot of times, especially here, it doesn't cost you any money to talk to a lawyer and get some questions answered. So, give us a call, Grungo Colarulo. That's Erica.
If we can help, we will.
If we can help, we might.
Michael might. I will. Michael might.
We always, if we can help, we will. We will. So we're almost done the full 30 minutes. I just wanted to talk briefly about, we always end it with a Mike Speaks rant. He started it off today with a rant. Gee.
Well, you started it.
You know what? Maybe you need a little bit mellow marijuana. I'm going to talk to your wife. Mellow you out a little, boy.
I'm fine. Don't worry about me.
Last year, my family
Sneak it in your coffee.
Last year, my family started a tradition where every spring break, 30 of us go down to the Outer Banks and rent a house, and we have all 30 in one house, one home. There's many, many kids. I got a 3-year-old, a 7-year-old. So when I was telling Mike about it, Mike went off. Because Mike feels, what do you feel about days off from work, Mike? What are your thoughts about days
Billy,
off from work?
I don't want to upset your mom or your uncles.
But you will.
No, I will not. They're very lovely people. They're very near and dear to me. But 30 people in one house for a week?
It's pretty rough.
That's what I call an air quotes vacation.
Yeah. That's not a vacation.
It can be a little rough. What happened this year, last year we lucked out. We got good weather. What happened this year is for the first 4 or 5 days, it was too cold to go to the beach. It was too cold to lay by the pool. So we were all stuck in. Now, my family did a great job of planning activities to try to do things. But yes, it became a little bit difficult. My son got an ear infection while we were there.
That's your fault.
Yeah. But when was the last time you took a vacation, Mike?
It's been a while, since probably before COVID or just after COVID started, I think.
Was it the trip to Florida?
The trip to Florida when I got very badly sunburned.
Yeah, Mike went
I showed
out
you
in the
those
sun.
photos.
I wish
didn't
maybe we can show those photos. I still have those saved.
No,
Maybe we could show those photos.
they're not for publication.
But yeah, Mike does not take many vacations.
Well, Bill, it's look.
Doesn't
again,
like to take days off from work.
Days off from work can be a problem. Think about it. If you're at work and your wife is home with the kids, life is good, right?
It can be.
But when you come home from work, and your wife or your spouse, whether it's wife or husband, either way, and you start talking about your day, and how was your day? That's when the conflicts arise. The kids were out of whack today. They really drove me crazy. Well, it's not my problem. I got a job to do. And all of a sudden, there's a little argument brewing.
See, I don't know if I agree with you, Michael.
Okay.
Yeah. Erica enjoys being home with her husband.
It's true. He is my favorite person in the whole world.
That's
Okay,
true.
well, that's another topic. We'll have
If
to
we
talk
could take
to
a
Officer
vacation
Domingo.
and leave our kids,
Can we get Rose on the podcast
Yes.
to talk about this? Because I think this would get heated betwing you and Rose. Actually, if we brought Rose in, though, that would cause problems because you're at work and that has to be
right?
separate.
Then Rose would be at work.
But here's
Yeah.
what we're going to do, Mike. I think this is going to be the key to a happy marriage for you. We're going to send you on vacation.
Wait,
with
hold
Rose.
on, wait. I don't need a kid. August, 40 years in August, okay?
Wow.
Are you going on vacation? Can you go on a vacation?
Will you?
I can.
Yeah, will you is the better term. I think you're going to, here's what you and Rose are going to do. You're going to go to California. You're going to smoke a bunch of weed because it's illegal there
Now,
as well.
Rose doesn't smoke.
And you're going to lay on the beach together.
Rose doesn't smoke. Rose doesn't drink a lot. And maybe a glass of wine now and then. But the idea of lying on a beach in the sun is right up her alley.
I will say before, if Rose is listening, just in case she's getting mad at
She
you.
listens.
Hi, Rose.
Just in case she's getting mad at you, I'm going to say hello, and I'm going to let everyone know who's listening. Rose is a delight. She is a wonderful woman. She's a great wife. She was a
What-
great
now,
mother.
did
and
I
she's
say
a
any-
great grandmother.
Did I say anything other than
No,
that?
Mike's.
You
Mike-
didn't.
You didn't say anything. I'm just telling her how I feel.
Well, it sounds like you're defending her when she doesn't need to be defended.
Well, you did say days off from work are the ruination of the American
I'm
family.
talking generally. I'm talking if you're not working and you're with the people who are causing your conflict,
Yeah.
then that's where the conflict
See,
comes from.
But
The
the people who cause my conflict are the two people sitting at this table.
Oh,
No.
she's calling us. Well, here's what I'm going to do. It's actually been over 30 minutes, and I think if this continues, Rose is going to murder Mike. So we're going to end it now. We're going to.
this is
Can-
very
can I
unfair,
just-
Sid.
Before we leave, the classic Argyle and Argyle, the sock and
You like
sweater.
it?
Oh.
It's a nice touch.
I didn't get to
It's
see-
it's impressive.
So for those who are not following along on YouTube,
Can the camera see my socks?
Mike is wearing Argyle sweater. Here, let's see the socks. Put it up. Can you stretch enough to put your leg up? Don't hurt yourself. Don't pull your groin.
Oh man.
Whoa.
There it is.
Look at that.
Wow.
There it is.
So he's got on blue
Wow.
Argyle socks, and he's got on a nice Argyle sweater.
Well
I
done.
do like
Well
that
done.
color
Yeah, I'm just
combo.
I'm a real style setter.
He is a style setter, but
Yeah.
he may not be here next week after Rose listens to this podcast.
No,
It's good that I'm testing out
No,
my new
you're
co-host.
you're taking this all out of context.
So
I
we-
was speaking in generalities.
Life and Law with Erica and Bill. That's a nice ring to it.
It's not bad.
Not too bad.
We could work
Mike.
on the title.
Not too. We could work on the title. Erica's podcast with Bill.
Featuring Bill.
All right, everybody. If you're still listening, please be sure to like, subscribe. We're on all your favorite podcast platforms. We do put up the video onto YouTube. And I forgot to mention, and I'm just getting reminded, if you are watching on YouTube, you may notice that Erica's hair looks a little bit shorter today than it did or does in the normal Toxic Workplace Report videos. Erica, quickly, 30 seconds. Why is your hair short?
Well, Bill, because it was cut.
There you
Why
go.
was it cut?
Every 2 or 3 years, I donate my hair to go to wigs for people with cancer. And this year I did it in honor of my friend for whom a salon provided a free wig when she had pancreatic cancer. So I went to that salon and had them chop off my locks. So if you're on YouTube, let us know what you think.
What's the name of the organization that you donated it to? Is it a special organization or anything?
So the salon is Martino Cartier, and they have their own foundation. I don't know exactly the exact name, but they do wigs for women with cancer.
Wigs are us.
That is great.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, me, Mike, and Lance would never be able to donate. Mike, maybe. Mike's hairs get long a little bit.
I'm going for a haircut tomorrow.
But I'm just happy if I still have hair. Right?
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you, Erica, for joining us. I'm sure you guys will be seeing Erica again. But be sure, like, subscribe, follow. We're on all your favorite podcast platforms. And that does it for episode 6 of Life and Law with Mike and
Holy
Bill.
cow.
Thank you,
Wow.
Erica. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Billy. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Sid.
And thank you to our producer, Lance, for producing as always. Talk to you soon, guys.
All right.
Thanks, guys.